The day is Tuesday, the 11th of November, 2025. Today's New York Times crossword is by Christina, Iverson, and Scott Hogan, and edited by Will Shortz. Let's get into it. Okay, CAPTCHA blockees. So who gets blocked by CAPTCHAs? Those would be bots, I would think. Mega or jumbo ending. So a word that comes as a suffix to mega or jumbo. So I would think tron. Megatron, jumbotron. Megatron being a transformer, I believe. Jumbotron being, I suppose, one of those big screens in a stadium or arena. Let's see, 13 across. One of over 30 million used for farming in Iowa. Used for farming? I'm not too sure. I don't think it would be a crop, but some sort of tool, maybe? Not too sure. Let's see, blubber? I would have thought something to do with crying, maybe, but beginning with B, I'm not too sure. What about here, 2 down? Numero de planetas. So how many planets are there? And it's in Spanish, and there are 8 planets, unfortunately for Pluto, and 8 in Spanish is ocho, O-C-H-O. So, 30 million acres in Iowa are used for farming. Okay, that was a bit of a throw off there. Blubber then, oh yes, crying, you could be bawling, blubbering. 19 across, like June 21st among all the days of the year. So I'm guessing that would be the longest day of the year, the equinox. Not equinox, sorry, the solstice. Forrest Gump for one. So Forrest Gump is a film, but it's also, I suppose, the character from the film. He was in the army, so I'm wondering if he was a sergeant, because that does fit. What about 16 across? It's hard to say. Who really knows, maybe? So the quote suggests it's just another way of stating that. It's hard to say, and I suppose who really knows? It's conveying the same idea. An elver is a young one. I'm going to guess eel. So an elver could be a young eel. Vote in would be elect. You vote someone in, you're electing them. Inactive periods. Inactive periods. No, nothing comes to mind. What about 7 down? Home of the Braves. So this would be the baseball team, the Atlanta Braves, I believe. ATL being short for Atlanta. 8 down. Completely goes along with. Not too sure at this point. I assume it means following someone or agreeing with something someone says. Something along those lines, perhaps. What about here? Crust over? No, not too sure either. Attire in many a Degas painting. So Degas famously painted ballerinas, and ballerinas wear tutus. Inactive periods. Stases, maybe, as in the plural of stasis. When you're in stasis, you are inactive, so stases would make sense. I've never seen that pluralized form before, but I suppose it could work. Many a midnight movie. Cult classic, maybe. I suppose what sort of film would be shown at midnight on a regular TV channel? Probably wouldn't be a blockbuster, but rather a cult classic. So crust over, then scab over. Scab over. That makes sense. Completely goes along with buys. So if you buy into something, you're completely going along with it. 20 across. Place to plop down in a parlor. I would have thought like a seat for getting a haircut, something along those lines. I'm not sure. Something beginning with S. No. What about cask? So that could be another word for keg, perhaps. Cask of beer, keg of beer. And a sparkler on a ring, something that sparkles on a ring, could be a gem. Playful teasing. Not too sure at this point. Hey, sailor. Could that be ahoy? I believe that's how nautical folk say hello to one another. Possibly. Where Coca-Cola is K-O. K-O? I'm not quite sure what that could mean. Is that another name for Coca-Cola? I might need 9 across first. Building with a broadside in an idiom. Broadside of a barn, perhaps? Could be, as in the idiom being you wouldn't be able to hit the broadside of a barn, as in your aim is terrible. Dirty Jobs host, I believe his name is Mike Rowe. Okay, so NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, is where Coca-Cola is KO, I suppose on the stock ticker. Quite some time, antonymously, what an interesting word. So, quite some time. Antonymously suggests it means the opposite of what it means. Or it sounds like the opposite of what it means. I'm not too sure, actually. Might need a bit more. All right, what about playful teasing? Banter, of course. Banter is playful teasing. And I guess the place to plop down in a parlor is a settee. I'm not sure why that works. Parlor. We're not talking about a bar. I'm not sure why I thought barbershop there, but parlor, I guess, is an old-fashioned term for a lounge room, I suppose. Settee being an old-fashioned word or an old-fashioned piece of furniture, similar to a couch, I believe. Bar mitzvah or confirmation, those are rites of passage. Yeah, that makes sense. Entre nous, I believe, is a French phrase. I don't know what it means, now that I think about it, but it is a phrase that I've heard. For rent could be to let. To let was kind of the British form of saying something, an apartment or commercial location is available to rent. The N of NGO would be non, so NGO is a non-government organization. Okay, quite some time, antonymously, a hot minute. Oh, right, that means, okay, so it's kind of the inverse of the literal definition. A hot minute you would expect to be quite quick, but it's actually been quite some time, say, since I've seen a friend. Semiaquatic relative of a badger could be an otter. Otter, I guess. I actually wouldn't have thought it was related to the badger, but it is semi-aquatic. Penultimate stop on the red BART line in brief. So BART is Bay Area Rapid Transit in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm going to guess the penultimate stop would be San Francisco Airport, whose initials are SFO. Let's see. 1957, Danny and the Juniors hit about a school dance. Now here I have absolutely no idea. I will certainly need more. Okay, we have another French-ism, which I believe is tête-à-tête, which is how French people say head-to-head. It's hard to say. Something fault, I would think. Seems to be the only letter that makes sense towards the end here. But I'm not sure what the rest is. What about 34 across? Relaxing sounds. So the sounds that you make when you're relaxing could be ahs, when you kind of sigh of relief. It could be. And then one of the 5 W's then could be why. So the 5 W's being who, what, when, why, and I suppose how. Whole bunch could be a slew of stuff, slew of people, things. Leaders in assists, typically. Could be a team player, maybe? Team players? So someone who tends to assist the team or help out a bit more than others, team players. Could be. Stingy sort. I think a wasp stings people. So this could be interpreted as stingy, which I believe is why the question mark is at the end, just to make sure you're aware that it means something else. Minor league level. AAA, I suppose. AAA baseball is the top tier of the minor leagues. Does poorly would be ails. I'm ailing, doing quite badly. Hear something. CA. No, I'm not sure. It's hard to say. Something was my fault? I'm not sure why that would be hard to say. That was my fault? I wonder. What about here? 33 down. I so did not need to hear that. Could be ew? Like you're saying, ew, that's gross. I didn't want to hear that. Could be. And then in unison, 32 across, as one. As one is just another way of saying in unison. The 2021 Pixar film inspired by Italian folklore. This is one that I've seen, actually. Luca, about a kind of mermaid boy in Italy. Place for cafe art, so that would be a latte. They do latte art in the cafe. Singer with the 1998 number one hit Nice and Slow. I believe that would be Usher. Usher, the R&B artist. So maybe it's hard to say, is that was my fault? Not sure that I understand. There doesn't seem to be a pun there. Okay, come back to that. Vietnamese New Year is Tet. Greek god whose name is an anagram of rose. Well, I've got the E, I've got the R, so there's only an O and an S, and Eros, I believe, is the name of a Greek god. Not sure exactly what their story is. Let's see, Canada's features a unicorn. I suppose their coat of arms may well do. Show with a laugh track would be a sitcom. Sitcoms commonly known for having laugh tracks. Polite assent, I suppose yes'm. Yes'm, kind of short for yes ma'am. Some rounds. Ammunition. Rounds of ammunition. Convince could be sway. You're swaying someone to take on a point of view. Copenhagen's The Little Mermaid, for one. I believe they have a statue of the Little Mermaid in Copenhagen. You talking to me. Tome. Yeah. It's hard to say. This is also hard to say. So this one, Worcester sauce, I believe, which is quite hard to say. Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce. Or it could be Worcestershire, actually. Could be one or the other. Worcestershire sauce, actually. So, pose the murders in the something morgue, I'm not sure. Holiday centerpiece would be a fir tree. Okay, so in the Rue Morgue. Okay, Rue being French for street, so Morgue Street, perhaps? Why not? I haven't heard of that story. Its website has a fantasy tab. ES. That I'm really not too sure, actually. What about here? There's something of poo. I believe there is a book called The Tao of Poo. I'm not sure why it's called that or what it's about, but it's the name that for some reason exists in my head. Eggplant palm is a vegetarian dish, using eggplant rather than, say, veal or pork. Sorry, I got distracted here by 54 down. ESPN's website would have a fantasy tab, fantasy football, fantasy leagues of sport. Prying would be nosy. Wet with thunder and lightning would be stormy. Here, cat? I would have thought here kitty or something along those lines, but no, I don't know. Some music sales for short. So it could be LPs or EPs, I would think. Or CDs, perhaps. Oh, here, catch. Right, CATCH. Because the one singing the lonely goat herd would be a yodeler. I think that's a well-known yodeling song. Move in real estate lingo would be relocate or relo. First coin to use the $ symbol. First coin. Not too sure. Yeah, no, I don't know. Fearless and folklore for Taylor Swift. So her albums are associated with eras. So that could be what that's referring to. And here I think it is Worcestershire rather than Worcester sauce. Yeah. On now would be live, I think. So it's happening right now. It's live. Track shape then is oval. And, I suppose the peso. Great. That's Tuesday done in 14 minutes and 2 seconds. This one I didn't get a chance to look at. The 1957 Danny and the Juniors hit about a school dance, At the Hop. I never would have got that. I don't think I've heard that song, but maybe I will have a listen to that later today. All right, that is your Tuesday, the 11th of November, 2025.